I'ma keep it a bean. Stick to the script, every scene. This from last year, but they clean. Say to say, I'ma take something else, but it's winning team. Charlie Sheen, fam gang, the regime. I'm from Piney Green.
This been overdue forever. Asked me when it was dropping, said never. Should've made you cut the feather, but I designed it Freemason Margiela.
What's good, Shellitronnn here, the most woke, no joking. I'm back at again with a brand new video, and today we're going to be going over a guy that a lot of you guys are very high on, a guy a lot of people have been asking me to do a video on, and someone who is actually a pretty intriguing target for the Panthers because of a few things. There's some pretty obvious reasons why Panthers fans are looking at this guy, but I'm going to raise a few questions about him because there are some very, very big red flags about Tyree Jackson, the quarterback out of Buffalo. He's 6'7", 245, and we can stop right there. Look, I get it. The guy reminds you guys a lot of Cam. He's a big guy, big body kind of dude. He's kind of mobile though. His combine numbers swing right quick here. He has long legs, and he has more of a stride than he does like actual speed and agility. But he has some pretty decent mobility of 4.59 on the 40, 34.5 on the vert. I mean, 120 broad jumps out. That's about like normal. He has prototypical quarterback size. I'll say it again, man. 6'7", 250, 10-inch hands, 34-inch arms. This guy is, look, he's what you want physically in a quarterback. He's very strong. He can throw the ball with some high velocity. I think even at the combine, he threw a pass to Smitty. It was way too hard. And he was like, yo, bro, it ain't that serious. You got to tone it down a little bit. I think even during the quarterback drills with the receivers, he was throwing the ball way too hard. And I know some scouts like that. Like, okay, he can really get the ball there. He has some zip behind the ball. And I know there's some scouts that are like, yeah, that's good to have velocity, but we'd rather you have some accuracy as well. And that's one of the biggest issues of his game, accuracy. Throw up his stats for me right here, man. The stats do not look good. And even when the stats look good, when you contextualize them, they look bad still. Let's go through it step by step. He was a redshirt freshman. His redshirt freshman year, he played in 10 games, a 53% completion rate, and a 9 touchdown to 9 interception ratio. I say interception. A 9 interception ratio. That is not good. I mean, neither of those numbers is good. Look, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, that's bad. 2017, only played in 8 games. He just cracked 60% completion rate. 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 12 touchdowns in 8 games, just over 1 touchdown a game. I'm not really a big fan of that. Like I said, the ratio's there, but when you think about it, it's not really all that great. This past season, it looks really good. 14 games played. Well, 55% completion rate looks horrible. That's bad. I can't even say it. It's bad. It's not good at all. But you look at the ratio. 28 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. You think to yourself, yeah, that's great. That's like front runner numbers. He had a really good upcoming his senior year. He came through, and he came up with some really big numbers, and he showed progression. He showed growth. His first 2 years weren't really all that, but in his senior year or his junior year, he really did show a lot of growth. But when you think about it, over the last 9 games of the season, he had 12 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, which means that over the first 5 games, he had 16 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. That's like round 2, maybe very early round 3 kind of quarterback numbers. But 16 to 3 in the first 5 games, and then 12 and 9 his last 9 games, that's horrible. Especially when you consider the NFL is a league where you have to get better as the year goes on. Most players, most teams do get better. It's about getting into the playoffs hot. And if you have tendencies to play kind of weak as the year goes on, you may not, do all that well in the playoffs. You may not even get to the playoffs if it comes down to, the last 3 or 4 weeks being what you need to do. And then you get to the context of, where was this guy playing? He was playing in the MAC conference, and if you just allow me for a second to list off the teams they played in 2018. The teams that Tyree Jackson played against in 2018 are Delaware State, Temple, Eastern Michigan, Rutgers, Army, Central Michigan, Akron, Toledo, Miami of Ohio, Kent State, Ohio, not Ohio State, Ohio, Bowling Green State, Northern Illinois, and Troy. Which of those teams do you really think is actual competition? And if there's 1 or 2 there, do those really give you any kind of real indication about how a guy is going to be playing in the NFL? And if you do think there are a couple teams there, let me go ahead and give you this. The strength of schedule for the Buffalo Bulls in 2018 was negative 5.29, and that ranked 116th out of a total of 130 schools. He played for a school that was in the bottom 15 in the entire nation in strength of schedule. I'm not all that sure how I like his stats. Paired with his competition, the guy looks good in his highlights. He can move around, he's pretty mobile, he can throw the deep pass. You know, he has a few bullets here and there, but when you're looking at highlights, that's all you're going to see is his highlights. All you're going to see is the positives. Look, that accuracy is a problem. He is kind of a guy who's like a backyard quarterback guy who's going to like just sling it out there. A Wrangler jeans wearing kind of guy like Brett Favre who's going to say, you know what? Hey, I have a guy down there. If he catches it, he's going to catch it. If he don't catch it, look, I hope I don't get an interception here, but hey, sometimes how the cookie crumbles sometimes. He will put it up for grabs sometimes, even when he should throw the ball away, even when he should look at other players in his progressions. And that's something else. First off, before I get into progressions, his footwork looks bad, bro. I can't even stand looking at his footwork. I'm not a real scout. I'm not one of these guys who's like getting paid to actually like look at quarterbacks' motions and their technique and that kind of stuff. But even I can see in the pocket, his footwork is just horrible. It's not great at all. It's very inconsistent. But getting back to his reads, as a passer, he does seem to stare down his first read a lot. He should be in a scheme where, you know, there's really one read or very obvious reads, a few cues here. Guys should be getting schemed open every single time. And you know, in Carolina, we do have a scheme that's kind of like that. It's a very quarterback-friendly scheme. We saw evidence that we could plug and play guys here and there, and the scheme works really well for any quarterback. And honestly, it puts me in a really weird position right here to think about how I think about Tyree Jackson. The guy has all the things you want physically in a quarterback. And honestly, you can't teach 6'7", you can't teach 250, you can't teach how big he is. He has those long strides. He can move. He's not really the fastest or like the most like agile kind of guy. He can lower that shoulder and he can get through tackles at the second level. And I know what it is. I know exactly what you're thinking, man. He reminds you a lot of Cam, but more realistically, he reminds me a lot more of the negative sides of early Cam and Jameis Winston more than, you know, their upside. Both of those guys were first overall picks in the draft. Tyree has a grade of maybe third round, but possibly third day because he is so inaccurate. They have questions about his reads. His mechanics need work from his feet to his throwing motion. His ability to make the right decision sometimes can be a little bit inconsistent as well. But the biggest thing is his size and his strength. I'm just going to keep saying it. Like, that's something that's going to make someone's going to reach. The Broncos might reach for him in the third round. I would say he's more of a third day kind of guy. If he's available round 5, I would say, you know what? Maybe get the guy. Maybe get him. We can see what we can do with him. But, man, Tyree Jackson leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe I'm looking at this from the wrong perspective here. Maybe because we do have Cam Newton, he has the perfect mentor and the perfect kind of space, perfect kind of coaching staff to be able to mold him into a better quarterback, mold him into a more accurate quarterback. Maybe just put him in a system where his skills can shine better. I wouldn't go higher than round 5 for him. I think it'd be a reach. And like I said, there's going to be some teams that love his physical abilities. His physical traits are going to be a big draw for him in this draft. And I think he is kind of slept on. But when you consider the competition he played against, strength of schedule, and that accuracy leaves a lot to be desired, man. He only cracked 60% once in his career, and it was 60.3. Those touchdown to interception ratios aren't all that great. And even when he had that 28-12, when you put it in context, it wasn't all that good either. And then, like I mentioned at the top of the video, where you want to get better as the season goes on. Just this past year, in there's 2 postseason games, the MAC Championship game and the Dollar General Bowl, his team got blown out 30-10 and 42-10. He didn't have a horrible game, but he got massively outplayed by the opposing quarterback. He didn't have a great game at all. I mean, you only put up 10 points in the conference championship game and in your bowl game. Look, if the quarterback gets most of the credit when the team wins, you got to put a lot of the blame on the quarterback when the team loses, especially in a blowout, because when you're in a blowout, you're probably going to be passing a lot more. And I think in both those games, he didn't crack 60% completion. So, I mean, there's a lot of things there that are very, very intriguing about Tyree Jackson, but it's more about potential and maybe upside. He's worth a flyer. But I'd be more willing to spend an earlier pick on Will Grier than a 5th round pick on Tyree Jackson. That's how I feel about it. We could mold him into a better place. And the thing is, you know, I gotta say, you know, maybe being in Carolina could be the best spot for him. But I have some really big questions about him. And just the thought of him playing in the MAC conference against really no competition and, you know, playing worse as his senior year went on and really only having 1 year of what I would call kind of good production. Those are some red flags for me, and that's how I feel about him. He could be good for us, but It's a risk. It's definitely a risk here. I wouldn't go higher than the 5th for him. But what are your thoughts on him, man? I know a lot of you guys are kind of high on Tyree Jackson. What do you think about him? Do you like him? Do you not like him? Have you watched any more than just his highlights? What do you think about his footwork? Any of that stuff, man? I know he reminds you a lot of Cam, but think about it. Does he remind you more of Cam, or does he remind you more of Jameis Winston? And I think there's a very, very clear difference between the two of those guys there. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And one last thing before I go, if you haven't yet, please consider going down to that pinned comment below, clicking on that link. It takes all of 10 seconds, and sign the petition to get the Panthers to partner with this channel. We can do a lot bigger things, a lot more content, a lot bigger concepts, and the more help that I'm given, the more content and the higher quality content I can give to you guys. So it's kind of a win-win situation here. Like I said, it takes 10 seconds, and I really appreciate it. And as always, you already know to do that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Been told y'all I been the man. Been told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.